Greetings from Costa Rica and welcome to this Playa Potrero Real Estate Market Report. My name is Matt Rosenstiel, aka CostaRicaMatt, and this report is part of a series that I'm putting together to try and help empower investors, potential buyers, prospective clients with more information about the Costa Rica real estate market so that you can make rational decisions. Playa Potrero is one of the fastest changing communities in Guanacaste thanks to the new Flamingo Marina project. We'll discuss that and more during our analysis today, which will be structured into 4 different sections. First, I'll give a general community overview. Second of all, we'll talk about key real estate and the specific developments that are important in Potrero. Third, we'll go over comp data and try to give you some numbers to analyze values in Potrero. And fourth and finally, we'll go over the rental potential of Playa Potrero properties. Stay tuned. Playa Potrero, Costa Rica is in an extremely strategic location in terms of expat development. You've seen the corridor from Playas del Coco all the way south to Playa Tamarindo really explode with growth ever since in 2000, or rather the early 2000s, international flights started landing at the Liberia International Airport, right just an hour from Potrero itself. Potrero is positioned just south of Playas del Coco and is really the northernmost beach in a stretch that could be considered one of the densest expat corridors in Costa Rica. That would include south from Potrero, the beaches of Playa Flamingo. Then you'd go to Playa Conchal, where you have Reserva Conchal, a huge golf course community. And further south, you'd get into Grande, Tamarindo, and Langosta. The area has really grown a lot in recent years thanks to the availability of private schools. Just down the road, you can get to 2 or 3 really exceptional private school options here that are offered K through 12 for foreigners. Usually those schools are bilingual, and the presence of those schools has really facilitated growth. But more than anything, Potrero is in a strategic location because it's the site of the new Flamingo Marina. Let's go back in time a little bit to the 1970s. There was an old Flamingo Marina. I ended up snorkeling in the Flamingo Marina sometime in 2008. It was a very simple affair, but essentially for the last 30 or 40 years, there has been a movement to expand the Flamingo Marina and create sort of a tourist attraction here in this spot of Guanacaste. It took absolutely forever for that marina project to advance and become a reality. In fact, the environmental approvals process for the expansion took something like 6 or 8 years. I'm not sure exactly how long, but really, there are people in Potrero who remember hearing about the marina expansion when they were kids. They're now adults and selling real estate in that area 30 or 40 years later. That marina expansion, or at least phase 1 of the expansion, was inaugurated recently in February 2023. It currently has 92 boat slips and will eventually go to 184 boat slips. There's gonna be a casino, there will be all kinds of luxury condos, commercial spaces, on and on. But importantly, these 100 boats, or eventually the 184 boat slips, bring a lot of wealth to the area, and you've seen the Potrero real estate market greatly impacted by it. To be clear, when we say the new Flamingo Marina, we're actually talking about a marina that is in Potrero Bay. The community of Playa Potrero itself is across a river from where you go to the Flamingo Marina, but for all intents and purposes, as a geographical feature, the marina is in Potrero Bay, And they use the Playa Flamingo name because Flamingo has always sort of had this exclusive Beverly Hills feel to it. Flamingo is a white sand beach. Potrero is a dark sand beach. Flamingo has condo towers that are built up onto rocky outcrops. Potrero is actually a seaside, unelevated neighborhood by and large. Potrero is really defined in a way by the lack of surf. It's a community that feels extremely different than places like Tamarindo, where you have an entirely surf-based culture. Potrero Bay has calm water. It has excellent swimming conditions, would be great for kayaking or stand-up paddleboarding. But yes, it doesn't have a surfable wave, which really makes it different than other Guanacaste communities. You don't see quite as many short-term renters coming down to just hit a surf break. In the culture, or rather in the community, you see a lot more folks who actually live there year-round or who are renting long-term. I feel like the more expats you meet in Potrero, are more often are people who are actually down here and relocated to Costa Rica. Whereas if you go to someplace like Tamarindo, 9 out of 10 people you meet are only going to be there for about a week. If you're considering investing in Potrero, the water situation is something you absolutely must consider. And here I'm talking about your legal access to water that's distributed by the community supplier. As of March 2023, all I'll say is that the water situation is complicated. There isn't enough for unlimited service to as many new construction sites as people would like to build. And if you have existing water service, your real estate is immediately more valuable than lots of real estate that exists where the local asada has not given their commitment to provide water service. If you're investing in Potrero, you need to 100% understand the current water situation and what's going on, and you have to have a lawyer who's willing to really go to bat for you and ensure that you have the correct legal water access. Let's take a look at the key real estate in Playa Potrero. And in particular, when I'm talking about this seaside community, there's one community that takes up the majority of the Potrero area, and that's Surfside. Surfside consists of, I think, a total of 150, somewhere in that range, 150 undeveloped, or rather properties that were segregated in sizes anywhere from, let's say, 580 square meters, which would be 1/8 of an acre, all the way up to some of the larger lots in a variety of sizes. Most of them are around a 1/4 acre or 1,000 square meters. The Surfside community essentially encompasses 6 blocks in one direction and 3 blocks in the other direction, right at the beach in Potrero. And it's always been an extremely central feature of the community. When you walk through most of the community of Surfside, you have a mix of residential and commercial construction. A lot of people have set up small boutique B&Bs. Others have done condo complexes. By and large, you see single-family homes right in the Potrero neighborhood itself, or rather that Surfside neighborhood. Another piece of key real estate in Potrero is the Villaggio community. Villaggio, if I'm not mistaken, means village in Italian, and they took inspiration from Italian villages, I think, for a very few components of the community. Yes, these villas have stucco colors and, earth tones. However, the Villaggio community is very much itself a high-density condo community. In Villaggio, I think There are a total of 200 or 300 condos all told. Most of the units are smaller 1, 2, and 3 bedroom condos. Many of them set up with a shared wall, for example, between 2 one-bedroom units or 2 studios. Those Villaggio condos provide a huge amount of rental inventory on the market. They are located somewhat of a walking distance to the beach, but really the sheer quantity of Villaggio condos offers enormous inventory for anybody looking to rent in Potrero. Finally, one of the biggest developments that affects Potrero is not actually located in Potrero, and I'm talking about Las Catalinas, just to the north of it. Essentially, you leave Potrero on a one-way street or a road that feels like it only has one landing point, and you get to Las Catalinas about 5 minutes later. Las Catalinas is a luxury development done with a Mediterranean feel. They built sort of a seaside village of condos and homes right next to the water on the beach north of Potrero. And now they're going to be developing the mountainside behind Las Catalinas. You're going to see something like a 2,000 total number of homes there eventually. Currently, I couldn't give the figure of how many condos and homes exist in the seaside section of Las Catalinas, but to give you an idea of prices there, they're asking somewhere around $1,000 per square foot for high quality ocean view condos. It's one of the most expensive places in Costa Rica because they really created something that's different than anything else you see. And Las Catalinas is also set up so that basically, even though the community is open to the public and anybody can walk through it, it really creates an enclave there where they have somewhat of a private beach accessible only to the homeowners in Las Catalinas. They'll be building over 1,000 more homes over the coming years in this hillside phase of development that I'm talking about. And Las Catalinas is eventually going to be a city itself that is larger than places like Tamarindo, or at least in their full-time resident population. So Las Catalinas certainly is another location that is buoying real estate places in Playa Potrero. And as they continue to add more and more homes, you're going to see a higher demand for the water from the Potrero Asada, and you're going to just see the normal issues that come along with that much development, the traffic, and all of the stress on infrastructure that happens when you squeeze that many people into a geographically small place. Now let's move on to some comp data to give you information about values in Potrero. Just like everywhere else in Guanacaste, you've seen an increase in values over the last 4 or 5 years. Potrero has seen that effect to an exaggerated level because of the new Flamingo Marina project. We pulled all the titles from the Villaggio project to look at the condo sales in Villaggio. One of the notable things was that in both 2020 and 2021, only about 20 of the condos were sold. In 2022, you saw 48 of the condos change hands. You also saw those numbers accompanied by a steady increase in the closing prices. The data we pulled from the National Registry shows that over those 3 years, each year prices went up about 13%. You saw more extreme examples in Surfside itself, where previously in 2016 and 2017, you could find humble homes in the $350,000 to $400,000 range. And nowadays, any existing construction in Potrero, even a 3-bedroom simple home, is generally going to have a price tag that starts with a 5. And you see plenty of smaller homes that are even asking $600,000 and up today. Property values in Playa Potrero can seem very high because of a legal characteristic of their beachside land. Potrero has judge-titled beachfront property that goes all the way to the sand. Or rather, the title of the property goes all the way to the sand. Whereas in most of Costa Rica, the area that extends from 50 meters above the high tide line to 200 meters above the high tide line is typically the famous concession area where you can only lease property. So in 99% of Costa Rica's coastline, you see that you can only lease the true beachfront property. In Potrero, they have truly titled properties all the way to the sand, which makes this absolutely prime real estate. There are currently 2 beachfront undeveloped lots on the market in Potrero. Actually, as of this video, one is under contract. One lot that measures 3/4 of an acre has an asking price of $1.6 million, or that comes out to about $538 per square meter. It would roughly be somewhere in the $50 per square foot neighborhood if that's how you evaluate property. A second lot on the market in Potrero is a 1-hectare beachfront property. They're asking $4.25 million or $425 per square meter. That would be closer to $38 or $40 per square foot. Those properties show just how valuable this prime beachfront real estate is. One of those listings doesn't even have an active water letter, meaning it doesn't have secured water access. If it had that water access, the price point could be even higher. Finally, let's move on and talk about rental potential in Playa Potrero. When I look at rental potential, I always log on to my favorite service, AirDNA, to use their comparative analysis. They scrape all of the data from Airbnb and VRBO to give information on rental rates, occupancy, etc. If you are investing in property and want to maximize your rental income, it can be a very useful tool, and they're not paying me a penny to say that. But anyhow, AirDNA has the district in which Potrero is the main beach community rated as an inferior rental market to Playa Tamarindo, which would be unsurprising to anybody who's been to the two communities. You go to Potrero and it feels very relaxed. You don't feel this urgent rush of tourism and nightlife and all kinds of stuff happening. Tamarindo very much feels like an absolutely tourist town. And whereas in Tamarindo, your base occupancy rate is around 70% across all Airbnbs, we're looking more at a rate of 60% in Potrero. You also see that really in Potrero, the extreme number of available rentals can affect prices. I was just browsing around for a bit in the Villaggio project, and lots of those units are available for rentals. You see 2 and 3 bedroom units priced at about $150 to $200 per night. And you can imagine how everybody competing against each other with those 200 or 300 villas can really be a force that reduces rental prices. Overall in Potrero, you do have to attract renters with some form of marketing that's going to appeal to the right people. You can't endlessly put surf waves and monkeys, etc. There are a lot of things in Potrero that would actually draw people. They have a sailing center that would be a very fun attraction for people, and other options that are great water sports in Potrero Bay that would be much more relevant to drive up your rental profile there. To wrap things up, Playa Potrero is a community that's growing to its absolute limit. You see people buying up any piece of property that has legal water access. You see lots of people fighting to get any legal water access that they can for new construction. And while water access is going to limit growth in the community here in the near term, over the long term, there's just so much demand to be close to the marina and also close to the amenities and all of the fun stuff that Potrero offers that you're going to see the community continue to grow. And if you're looking for somewhere to eat in Potrero,
one of the absolute best restaurants in Potrero, it's The Shack, owned by my good friend Lissa. Shout out to Lissa. There are a ton of options in town here in Potrero. You've got pretty much any kind of food you want to eat. The Shack has amazing sandwiches. They're one of the only restaurants that does real hand-cut, not frozen French fries. Great drinks, great food all around. It's got a menu that pleases pretty much everyone, whether it's sandwiches, kids' meals, fish, etc. Check out The Shack if you're in Potrero.